Morning. Today is the first Sunday of Advent. We're looking at Mark 13. And it's not so much about the first Advent, but the second Advent. This chapter of the Gospel of Mark begins with the disciples being totally gobsmacked by the beauty of the temple in Jerusalem. And Jesus telling them that the temple is going to be totally destroyed. They've only just seen it. What dreadful prophecy is that? And they say, when? When is this going to happen? But Jesus doesn't answer them straight away. He says about all the changes that are going to happen before his second advent, his second coming. Now you see, we don't have a problem with the first advent, do we? We love it. We love the story about a baby being born, a star leading the wise men, the shepherds going to see the baby, the gifts given to the baby on his birthday. But the second coming, the second advent, is totally the opposite. Stars are falling from the sky. The sun and the moon are darkened. The earth and the heavens are shaken. Now the disciples, they do ask the obvious question, when will this happen? So did Jesus get it wrong when he said, this generation will not pass till all these things have happened? Some Christians, you see, today say that Jesus didn't mean this literally, that he only meant it spiritually, and that he wouldn't return physically, but that his words would continue on and they would be coming back to us. And that this prophecy is symbolic, not physical. Was he wrong? Though if we go back to the beginning when the disciples asked the question about the temple, when would these things happen? The temple did indeed get destroyed in their lifetime in 70 AD. The second coming is crucial to the gospel, and it's mentioned in the New Testament 300 times, and mainly by Jesus himself. And he says, but concerning that day or that hour, no one knows. Not even the angels in heaven, not even the Son, only the Father. So be on guard, keep awake, for you do not know when the time will come. You see, he said, and you know Jesus likes to tell a story. He says, it's like a man going on a journey, and when he leaves home, he puts servants in charge. Each one has a job to do, and he commands the doorkeeper to stay awake. You see, because you don't know when the master of the house will come. He could come in the evening, he could come at midnight, or when the rooster crows, or in the morning. And you must be awake, lest he suddenly comes and finds you asleep. Stay awake. You see, to live a Christian life, you must be thinking on these words and to believe that the second coming can come at any time. So if you were to think of the second coming all the time, how would it change your life? Maybe you wouldn't care too much about the world and that you think it wouldn't really matter. But if you remember the previous parables that we've looked at, and remember the 5 virgins, 5 of 10 virgins were simply waiting. They didn't actually do anything. They weren't ready for when the bridegroom returned. And then there's the servant who thinks that the master's going to be so long, that he's taking such a long time, that he gets drunk, treats his fellows wickedly, but he's caught unready when the master returns. Or maybe you would think about understanding the problems of today's society and interact with others with compassion. You see, no one knows when will be the coming of the kingdom of heaven. Not even Jesus knew, only the Father. So the warning is, stay alert. Be ready. Now in verse 26, Jesus says he's coming in clouds. Clouds with power and glory. He doesn't say he's coming through the clouds. It's not going to be that the clouds are going to part and there he is. He's not coming sitting on the clouds. No, he's coming in the clouds, bringing power and glory. We have to look at the word cloud. What is the cloud? It was more than just a collection of water and vapor. Now, if you go back to the Old Testament, to the time when the Israelites were being freed from Pharaoh, they were led by a cloud during the day and a fire at night. The cloud is called Shekinah, which means the very presence of God. So when Jesus returns, he's bringing the cloud, Shekinah. He's bringing the presence of God. And it's going to cover the whole world and re-establish the paradise that was in the Garden of Eden. Everything will be back to perfection, how it was before Adam and Eve turned their back on God. And the presence of God that was removed will be re-established. You see, Jesus then goes on to point out that when you see the leaves on a fig tree, you can see that summer is coming, that it's near. And Jesus Christ, you see, is bringing summer with him. The second coming of Jesus is a renewal of creation. Anyone who longs for the second coming actually hates what God hates, and he works toward ending poverty. He works towards ending disease and hunger. So don't be spiritually sleepy. Yearn for that second coming and watch, lest he come suddenly, find you asleep. The person you see who wants to end injustice and disease and death wants the kingdom of heaven. They want the return of the King and the coming power of his glory, and who will bring justice, and he will fill the earth with it. This person will be passionate. This person will be compassionate. You see, if your life is a little bit too comfortable, you might not be looking for the second coming. You might even lack a little bit of compassion for others. You might just simply be grateful, saying to yourself, "They're but for fortune." Jesus says, be on guard. Don't be lazy and uncaring. Watch. Yearn. Now, we know a couple of definites about the kingdom of heaven. It's going to come. It's going to happen. That's point number one. Another is that there is no possible way of knowing when. So you have to be ready, watching. So if you are ready, if you are watching, you are never going to be falling into accepting any bad means to an end. You know, the end justifies the means. Because you'll know that you could get caught right in the middle of those bad means. You don't want to be like the servant that thought he had plenty of time, mistreating everyone, living a licentious life. You must be a person of integrity, because you never know when Jesus will return. So be ready, at all times. Now, this doesn't mean that you've got to be fearful all the time, afraid of everything. You know, be a bit more like, say, an older person who knows that his life is not as long as it was. So he's prepared for his death, but he's not living his life scared of death. You have to have some balance. Every action that we do must be prepared to be spotlighted at any time by Jesus Christ. His return will actually reveal what and who we really are. Therefore, expecting the kingdom of heaven at any time will make us forgive and be peaceful with all those people that we feel have wronged us. Longing for the kingdom of heaven stops us from stepping into the judgment seat. It helps us to forgive, knowing that judgment is coming. The doctrine of the second coming has enormous power to change. It changes how you look at society, change your own personality, your integrity, your attitude toward those who have wronged you. So, if there is no judgment day, then there is no hope for this world. If there is no judgment day, what hope is there for you and for me? Jesus talks of the sun and the moon being darkened, the whole world plunged into darkness. Now, this is exactly what happened to Christ when he died on the cross. Darkness came over all the land. It looked like Judgment Day. And why? Because it was Judgment Day. Judgment fell on Jesus Christ as he took our place and took our judgment and our penalty of death. At his second coming, Jesus will bring great light, the ultimate sunlight, the ultimate presence of God, Shekinah. On the cross, Jesus Christ experienced not the ultimate presence of God, but actually the ultimate absence of God. You see, with the first advent of Christ, he didn't come to bring and give judgment, but to actually take it, to suffer the absence of God. And he cried the words, "My God, why have you forsaken me?" He did that in our place. He gets rejection, he gets death, he gets the darkness. And we can, through his selfless action, receive the ultimate light, the love, the presence of God. The gospel is the great judge of the universe was willing to be judged for us in our place. The great judge of the universe was willing to leave his throne, the judgment seat, and stand in the dock in our place and take our punishment. A Christian knows he or she can never stand before the judgment seat on their own, but can look forward to the second coming, knowing he can stand because of what Jesus has done, knowing of the integrity it will give in your private life, and knowing that you'll be able to do all things in great hope. Amen.